Ghana will be one of the 9 countries representing Africa at the next World Cup in summer 2026. Yay! But we've come a long way. Wogbejeke, ejekejeke, wojeshong. 60 years ago, in 1966, Ghana led Africa, the entire Africa, to boycott the World Cup. That boycott is the reason today Africa have multiple representation at the World Cup. So I'll tell you the story of that boycott and why, because of that boycott, Ghana is represented on is respected on the world stage, and why it is important as Ghanaians to keep that respect going. My name is Nenebi Tony. I'm a Ghanaian writer in the US, right? But on this channel, usually I talk about Ghana's international relations. But we all know football is an important part of global diplomacy. So this is not just a story of football. It's the story of diplomacy. Let's get into it. Let's start from 1957. And no, I'm not talking about Ghana's independence. 1957 was the year Confederation of African Football, CAF, was founded. CAF was founded with 4 members. One of them, South Africa, will be kicked out because they did not want to kick out apartheid. Other countries joined, and by 1962, CAF had 10 members. And those 10 members were fighting for slots to play at the 1962 World Cup. 6 of them were slated to play at the qualifiers. 4 of them played in the qualifiers. 2 of them, Sudan and Egypt. Egypt at this point was called the United Arab Republic because Egypt joined with Syria to form a new country, United Arab Republic, which later on they splitted again and Egypt became Egypt again. But Egypt and Sudan said they couldn't play in the qualifiers for the 1962 World Cup because of the weather. It was too hot for them. Them, they guess, were divas. So, Ghana played against Nigeria in the first round of the qualifiers. Of course, we trashed Nigeria. We went to the next stage, played against Morocco. And unfortunately, Morocco won. And do you think Morocco represented Africa at the 1962 World Cup? No. Morocco played in the playoff against Spain. Spain won. So at the 1962 World Cup, Spain joined 9 other European countries. So Europe had 10 countries. South America had 6 countries. And North America had 1 country represented at the 1962 World Cup. No African country, no Oceania country, no Asian country. So Africa was like, no, this is unfair. We want fair representation. So to qualify for the 1966 World Cup, Africans asked that Africa be given their own slot instead of playing playoffs against Europe for the World Cup qualifiers. And FIFA said, no, they can't give Africa representation because Africa has not proven that they can do well at the World Cup. Listen to this. Most countries in Africa were not eligible to play at the World Cup before 1960 because most countries in Africa were under colonialism. And when African countries became independent and wanted to play at the World Cup, FIFA said, you can't play at the World Cup because you do not have the history of playing at the World Cup. Sometimes the people holding you down use the fact that you are down as an excuse to keep you down. This is what FIFA was doing. And so the director of football in Ghana, Ohene Djan, said, this is insulting and humiliating. Africa has proven that we are able to compete at the world stage because Africans have won against European countries at this point. You know, Ghana won against England in 1957 when we played as part of our independence celebration. So Africans have proven that we can compete against Europeans. So what is this thing you are saying? And FIFA said Africa needs to be understanding and conform to the rules of FIFA. Yeah. So in January 1964, FIFA announced that Africans would be allowed a slot at the World Cup. Yay, no. FIFA said Africa will compete with Asia and Oceania for a slot at the World Cup. Listen, in 1964, FIFA had about 129 members. And out of these 129 members, 34 of them were from Europe. And out of the 34 countries from Europe, 10 of them will get the chance to compete for slots at the World Cup. So 10 countries out of 34 from Europe will be represented at the World Cup in 1966. Africa had 36 members. And out of the 36, one of them will compete with Asia, who had 22 members, and Oceania, who had about 4 members, for a slot. Yeah, so about half of FIFA members were going to compete for one slot, and the other half will get 15 slots. Does this sound fair to you? No, it did not. So in February 1964, the director of sports in Ghana, Ohene Djan, called for a meeting of CAF members in Ethiopia. So the president of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah, told Ohene Djan that do everything you can to make sure Ghana is respected in relation to football on the world stage. So he called for CAF membership meeting, and the CAF members decided at that meeting to send a telegraph to FIFA, telling FIFA that we do not accept your offer. If you don't give us our own slot, we will do something. And FIFA said, what will you do? What can you do? So on the eve of Olympics 1964 in Tokyo, Africa formally announced that if they are not given their own slot, they would not partake in the qualifiers for the 1966 World Cup. And the president of FIFA spoke at the Olympics and said, if Africa does not partake in the qualifiers, Africa will be punished. Yeah. And so Asia said, yo, we stand with Africa. What they're asking for is just and fair. And FIFA said, no, it's not just and fair. So Africa and Asia together decided to boycott the 1966 World Cup. And in October 1964, FIFA went ahead and announced qualifiers from Africa and Asia. No respect, so much disrespect. And Africa said, we already told you we are not playing in this. So Africa members started saying that they didn't stop communicating with FIFA. They kept communication with FIFA, but they were relentless that they were not going to allow FIFA to bully them or insult them. So FIFA said, you know what? I know how to get you. I'll give you power. So Ghana, through Ohene Djan, was leading this boycott. So Ghana, Ohene Djan, and Ethiopia, Tesema, were two of the leaders of the boycott. So FIFA said, Ohene Djan, we have a position for you. We want to make you a member of the FIFA Executive Committee. Yeah, in 1965, FIFA made Ohene Djan a member of the Executive Committee. Ohene Djan had a conversation with CAF, and CAF said, go ahead and take it. And don't forget about us. They trusted him. President Nkrumah of Ghana also told him that, you know what, you can make changes from inside. So Ohene Djan went and became a member of the executive committee. But as a member of the executive committee, he said he wasn't going to change his position. He kept his position that Africa is boycotting the 1966 World Cup. And because now he was speaking as a member of FIFA Executive Committee, his words had more power. So the press around the world started covering it. Members of FIFA, other members of FIFA started listening to him. And this angered the executive committee even more. So in July 1965, FIFA put 5,000 Swiss franc sanction on all the members of African countries who are not who are boycotting the World Cup. So all the African countries who were boycotting, where a fine was put on them. Asian countries, a fine was put on them. And what did that do? Nothing. The African countries appealed the fine and it was reduced to 1,000 Swiss franc. But African countries said this is still an insult. So they still wrote a strong worded letter to FIFA that this fine is an insult. All we are asking for is fair play. Yeah, fair play is part of football. All we are asking for is fair play. And you won't give us fair play and you are fining us. But FIFA, there always is this one person in the world who would stop a fight or would leave the group when the group is fighting. That was North Korea. North Korea went ahead and competed in the World Cup in 1966, representing Africa and Asia. But the important countries in Africa and Asia, including Ghana, did not. And let me tell you this. Ghana won the CAF World Cup, CAF African Cup in 1963 and in 1965. At this point, it was obvious that the African country that was going to represent Africa at the World Cup in 66 was going to be Ghana. So Ghana was giving up its chance to play at the World Cup for this fight. So the fight cost Ghana something. And we all know Ghana didn't qualify to the World Cup until 2006. So we fought, and then 40 years later, we got to the World Cup. What that means is that we sacrificed our chance to play in the World Cup to fight for Africa's representation, to fight for Asia's representation, to fight for Australia or Oceania's representation. And that fight caused us that, and it also caused us money, which the president of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah, was willing to pay. And in 1968, FIFA finally gave in. The executive committee of FIFA voted unanimously that Africa would get a slot at the 1970 World Cup. And so Morocco became the first African country to represent Africa at the World Cup in 1970. Now, let me explain. Egypt played at the World Cup in 1934. So, officially, Egypt is the first African country to play at the World Cup. But Morocco is the first country to represent Africa at the World Cup. Because in 1934, Egypt, there was no CAF, so there was no Confederation of African Football. Egypt played their qualifiers through Asia. So Egypt, even though it's an African country, played in the 1934 World Cup as an Asian representation. Okay. So in 1970, things changed. In 1978, Tunisia became the first African country to win a game at the World Cup. In 1990, Cameroon became the first African country to qualify to the quarterfinals of the World Cup. And Roger Miller, who led the Cameroonians, said, wait until Ghana comes to the World Cup, you will see. Roger Miller respected Ghana, not just because of how great we were at the game, but also because of our relentless fight to get Africa the respect it deserved. In 2006, Ghana finally went to the World Cup, qualified from the group stages after winning 2 games against Czech Republic and the US. 2010, sad day. Ghana almost made it to the semifinals. We didn't make it. We did it. We couldn't. Yeah, into me. But sad story. 2026, Ghana will have the chance to redeem ourselves. So hopefully, I'm hopeful that Ghana would do great at the 2026 World Cup. But this story is about the fight in 1966 that led us here. Now there are 9 countries representing Africa at the World Cup. It started with 1, it went up to 3, and then went up to 5, and now we are at 9. And I wanted to point out 3 things. 1, Ghana led the fight for a cause. In life, you have to fight for something, stand for something. Ghana sacrificed our chances to play at the World Cup to lead the cause for Africa. The independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked to the total liberation of Africa. Nkrumah meant those words, and Nkrumah's friend Ohene Djan also meant those words. 2, the fight came with a cost. I'm a Christian. In the Bible, King David said, I will not make an offer to my God which will cost me nothing. I'm saying that to say, anytime you are offering something or anytime you are fighting for something, it will cost you something. You have to be able to stand the cost. Sometimes it will feel like you are losing because when Africa was boycotting, North Korea got a chance to go to the World Cup. And North Korea won a game against Italy, which gave North Korea some fans in Europe. It cost us something until we finally got what we were asking for in 1970. And fighting is a collective decision. Sometimes when somebody is fighting for a good cause, support the person. Asia didn't start a fight, but it supported Africa. And now Asia also have their own representation at the World Cup. Fighting as a collective gets you result. There will be some people who will not support your fight, like North Korea and Australia. But when you have people who support your cause, go with them. Forget about the people who are not standing with you. Go with the people who are standing with you, and you will win at the end. I thought that this is a good message to share with us as we are celebrating our chances to win the next World Cup. Yeah, our chances to win the next World Cup. Subscribe to my channel if you're interested in international relations and diplomacy. I always come at it from a fun angle, but also from an intellectual angle. So let me know what you think. Do you want me to talk about more football-related diplomacy issues? Let me know in the comments. Talk to you later.